Fall has arrived here in western New York. You can see it in the changing canopy and feel it in that crisp morning air. The type of seasonal change that has you packing away the summer toys and getting ready for raking, gutter cleaning, and the inevitable first snow. But this weekend, summer decided to give us just one last round. Warm sun, clear skies, and that late September weather that you just can't waste. I've recently got back into riding after a few years off. As I've aged, I've shifted away from the sport bikes of my past and into adventure touring bikes that spare my back and offer those longer rides with better creature comforts. There's something about being back on two wheels, that mix of calm and focus, that I didn't realize I missed as much as I did until I came back to it this year. While planning a last-minute solo trip to the Finger Lakes, I stumbled across a route from a 2003 edition of Rider magazine titled The High Roads of New York. The route meanders through the best of the Finger Lakes twisties and promises excellent views and small-town joys. Today, we're packing up my F750GS, heading south out of Rochester, and seeing if those roads still hold the same magic 20 years later. As with any ride to the Finger Lakes, Kershaw Park at the north end of Canandaigua is a perfect starting point. It acts as a gateway to the region, located just a minute or so off of routes 5 and 20, which serves as the main connector between all of the Finger Lakes. Whether you're starting your day or winding down, Kershaw has everything you need. Easy parking, public bathrooms, and a great selection of restaurants and bars to grab a sandwich before hitting the road. The Seneca Native American name for Canandaigua Lake translates roughly into the chosen spot, and as the midday sun hits the water, it's easy to see why. Every nice day bustles here with beachgoers and picnickers. The people watching is superb, and it's my favorite place to pause and collect myself during each ride through the Finger Lakes region. Part of the joy of going on rides like this are the opportunities to be with myself and take time to decompress. After fueling up for lunch with a sandwich and a cold drink, I start out heading south from Canandaigua, and the train begins to shift almost immediately as you leave the lake level behind. The route tracks down the west side of Canandaigua Lake, transitioning from the open stretches of Route 21 to the technical, shaded climbing turns of County Road 12. The highlight of this stretch is the ascent up Gannett Hill Road. It is a steep, wooded climb that leads you into the heart of Ontario County Park, which sits at an elevation of over 2,000 feet, making it one of the highest points in the region. The way down is just as interesting, forcing you to rely on engine braking as you re-navigate the twisties. Moving south, just as you peak on County Road 12, you hit the Lake View Point Scenic Overlook. It's yet again one of those great places to take a moment to catch up with your own thoughts, providing a massive panoramic view of the Bristol Hills and the southern tip of Canandaigua Lake. From this vantage point, you are looking down nearly 1,000 feet into the valley, overlooking the path that the glaciers once took to shape the geography of this entire landscape. Descending from the overlook into Naples, the smell of Concord grapes is everywhere. Since 1961, the Naples Grape Festival has taken over the town every September to celebrate the harvest with wine tastings and the legendary World's Greatest Grape Pie Contest. And coincidentally, this weekend happens to be festival weekend. Unfortunately, it's a terrible time to ride through on the motorcycle with a lot of stop and go and thick pedestrian traffic, though a wonderful time to ride by all the vendors and grape lovers enjoying their time. To escape the festival crowds, I bore left onto State Route 53 to find Italy Valley Road. The aforementioned Rider magazine article calls this 15-mile stretch of twisties a highlight, and it's easy to see why. It's a rhythmic run through a deep valley, punctuated by the Merrill Sister Curves, a series of 4 notorious, blind, 20-mile-per-hour corners with multiple apexes. The road brings you to Pulteney, where I chose to dip down to meet with the western edge of Keuka Lake and ride right along the shore. At the southern tip of Keuka Lake is Hammondsport, a charming small town with a village square lined with local shops and eateries, and also the home of Glenn Curtis and the Curtis Museum. Curtis fundamentally changed the motorcycle world, moving beyond the motorized bicycles of his era to invent the twist-grip throttle and the first American V-twin engine. He was a man obsessed with the limits of internal combustion. In 1907, he became the fastest man on Earth by reaching 136 miles per hour on a custom-built V8-powered motorcycle of his own design, a record that stood for over 2 decades. Walking through the Curtis Museum, you realize that every time you roll on the gas or feel a pulse of a V-twin, you're experiencing the mechanical DNA he pioneered right here in this valley. But his legacy didn't stop on 2 wheels. Curtis took the lightweight, high-performance engines he developed for motorcycles and moved them into the air, becoming the first person to conduct a publicly witnessed flight in the United States in his aircraft known as the Junebug. From winning the world's first air race in France to developing the first seaplanes for the United States Navy, Curtis effectively turned Hammondsport into the cradle of naval aviation. Leaving the museum, I head north, and the route heads up Route 54, hugging the eastern shore of Keuka Lake. My first stop was Domaine LeSeurre winery, where French heritage meets Finger Lakes Tyrol. Sebastian and Céline, 6th-generation winemakers from France, bring an old-world expertise to these hills that is truly unique. With the help of the wonderful folks at Domaine, I picked up a bottle of dry Riesling for camp before continuing north to the Spotted Duck Creamery. Spotted Duck Creamery is a unique farm-to-table destination in the Finger Lakes, where you can enjoy frozen custard made from the eggs of the very ducks you see on site. Their signature custard uses eggs from their own flock of over 200 Ancona ducks, a breed prized for large, rich yolks that create an incredibly creamy texture without the need for artificial stabilizers. The experience is truly farm to cone, as the ducks roam in spacious pastures right next to the ordering window and picnic area. You can even buy duck sprinkles at the window to feed the flock, allowing you to interact with the birds while enjoying a flight of their handmade organic custard. Leaving Spotted Duck and headed south, the road snakes along the natural contours of the ridge towards Watkins Glen. It's a ride defined by long, sweeping curves and sudden, dramatic glimpses of Seneca Lake shimmering below you to the left. This descent leads directly into Watkins Glen, a Cathedral of Speed, where the first post-war American Grand Prix was run on the village streets in 1948. Beyond the recent history, the town is home to the legendary Gorge Trail, with its 19 waterfalls and the International Motor Racing Research Center. I'm calling it a night at the Watkins Glen State Park campgrounds. Tucked away on the upper rim in the hardwood forest, it's a perfect spot for moto-camping, with other moto-camper spottings being a frequent occurrence here. Looking back, the 2003 Rider magazine article fulfilled exactly what I was looking for from today's ride. My journey added a few of the updated stops, like the winery and creamery that have made this region even better over the last 20 years, and also ensured to incorporate some of the classics from the article, like the Curtis Museum and Ontario State Park. I will admit, I spent a little too much time taking in the vistas and visiting the Curtis Museum today, and by the time I reached camp, the sun had long since dipped below the ridge, and I had to set up in the dark. But unfortunately, that's the reality of a great ride. Sometimes the road is just too good to leave. Tomorrow, we break away from the magazine script to make our own path. We'll head south to Corning for breakfast, and then work our way back north through the new ridges and hidden valleys. The fire is roaring, the Riesling is now open, and it's good to be back on too. I'll see you guys in the morning.
Good morning. It got cold last night. It was like mid to low 40s. So I was bundled up, but I had to put the bug jacket on for another extra layer. Let's pack it up.
I hit the road early, but I don't ride too far this morning because you can't stay in Watkins Glen without going for a hike on the Gorge Trail. The gorge is a hanging valley carved 12,000 years ago by glaciers that left streams stranded high above the lake basin. Over time, the water fought its way back down, slicing through 380 million year old shale to create this amazing gorge with 19 waterfalls. There are over 800 stone steps in this mile-and-a-half stretch of trail, everyone laid by hand in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression. With the morning still warming up and my post-hike hunger rearing its head, I head south in search of hot coffee and a breakfast sandwich before setting off into our adventure home. The plan for today is to find wooded winding routes and track down some seasonal dirt roads before capping off the trip by riding by the westernmost Finger Lake, Conesus. I'm riding down Route 414, which sits in a valley that provides views of the hills to either side of you as it eventually opens up and guides you into Corning, New York. I roll into Corning and pass by the Museum of Glass as I make my way towards Market Street. Market Street is in the heart of what they call the Gaffer District, named after the master glass blowers that made this town into what it is today, and it feels like stepping back into classic, charming small-town America. The entire street is lined with beautifully preserved brick buildings, old-fashioned tree-lined sidewalks, and many local shops and restaurants to explore. I find a wonderfully bustling local cafe, Babe's Bagels Beans, and I grab a tall coffee and a bagel breakfast sandwich to enjoy outside as the sun continues to warm the day up. Yet again, an excellent place to take a beat and soak in your surroundings. The ride towards Canisteo starts out all about the valley, following the wide, sweeping curves of the Chemung River. The roads here are predictable, fast, and engineered to follow the water. It's smooth pavement that lets you focus on the timbered ridges rising up on either side of you. The latter half of this section is dotted with seasonal dirt roads, unmaintained roads only open from April to December. While not as intense as off-road trails, it's a great way to break up the ride home and get a little dust on the bike. leaving Canisteo, the route opens back up as we head toward Avon. The big highlight here is riding along the eastern edge of Conesus Lake. It's the westernmost of the Finger Lakes, and potentially one of the prettiest to ride on because you're so close to the water. Conesus Lake also serves as the public water supply for the villages of Avon and Canisteo, providing drinking water to approximately 15,000 people. Just as we started this journey on routes 5 and 20, we're going to cap it off here too, with a stop at Tom Wahl's. Starting in 1955, Tom Wahl's has been serving up classic Rochester region pie plate pressed burgers and house-made root beer for years. Two things I certainly can't resist on a day like today. This ended up being my last large ride of the year, with temperatures dropping rapidly not long after I returned home and campgrounds closing for the season. I was reminded throughout this trip the fantastic riding we have all throughout New York State. In a single day, you can go from glacial ridges through wine country to lakeside views to winding dirt roads. It has been awesome getting back on two wheels, and I'm really looking forward to what next year's season has in store. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to support the channel.